Hi everyone, how's it going and welcome back to another Sky Sports Fantasy Football video. Today marks the start of a brand new weekly series which I'll be doing hopefully every Thursday, where on Twitter on Wednesday night I'll ask for some questions and then I'll jump on here and answer them, hopefully again every Thursday. But yeah, as I say, we've got 9 or 10 questions on here which we'll be answering. Hopefully trying to keep these videos a bit shorter just to get some last minute questions and answer them for you and then get the video out. So let's jump straight into things. So our first question comes in from FPL Spartans, who asks, could you rank the best Chelsea assets in your opinion, looking at bringing in 2 on Sunday? Now obviously this is going to be a big talking point about the Chelsea players with the possible captaincy on Sunday. But for me, I think I'm going to give 5. I'll give 5. I think that's probably the best. I think I'm going to go for Chilwell at number 1. I think depending on his clean sheets and his attack and returns, he just looks like the best. 8.5 million as well, he looks fantastic. Number 2, it's between Enzo and Jackson for me. I think Enzo's going to guarantee you 5 points most of the time unless he gets booked like this week and gets 4. Jackson's going to have the higher ceiling, but could end up with a 2-pointer. I'm going to go for Jackson at number 2 because of the high ceiling. I think if Jackson blanks, you're only really missing out on 3 points not having Enzo. So I'm going to have Jackson at number 2. I'm going to go for Enzo at number 3. Number 4, I think anything past those 3 is where it gets a bit more difficult. 4, I want to give it to... Do you know, I'm going to give it to Robert Sanchez at 6.6 million. I think with him being the new goalkeeper, the new number 1 for Chelsea, I'm going to give it to him. I think with his price, he looks great, and I think captaincy wise he would do alright. Maybe not this week with West Ham away, but just in general I think Sanchez could be a great keeper to have long term. Number 5, I'm giving myself a few options here. I think there's Caicedo, Chilwell, Thiago Silva, James, I think would be between those 4. I don't think Chilwell's going to be great long term. I don't think he'll start very much, and obviously with him covering as a left back, he's not really going to be getting the pass tiers. Thiago Silva's obviously reliable for the passes, but you don't really know game time wise. James could easily get an injury. And I'm going to give number 5 to Caicedo. I think at 8 million he could be decent for your tackles and he could easily get some passes in there. So that's my 5. Going for Chilwell, Jackson, Enzo. Who's 4? Sanchez, and 5 I'll give it to Caicedo. Next question comes from Matt SkyFF, who says, would you prioritise transferring in Watkins on Sunday for captaincy or bring in a second Chelsea asset? He already has Thiago Silva. I would go for Watkins. I think Watkins is just the best captain that day. And I think just purely based on that, I would be bringing him in. Obviously, a second Chelsea asset like Chilwell would be great. But I think when you're looking at a possible captaincy, I would be picking Watkins there. As I say, I think he is just the best asset on penalties and stuff for the captain on Sunday. With already having Silva, great. I would actually, depending on your team, I would consider bringing Chilwell in anyway and not having him as the captain. It depends, obviously we can see what happens with Martinez's injury. And yeah, I think other than that though, it depends because we've got a 2-for-0 over a few teams. Obviously it's a 4-for-0 if you captain them, but that's not really going to happen if you bring in Watkins. But I think I'll look into that. There's a question further on that I can go more into detail with that. But for this question, I would prioritise bringing in Watkins for the captaincy edge because I think he's the best option. So the next question comes in from FPL Matt, who says Watkins this week for captaincy and then move to Jackson next week. Now, I totally agree with Watkins for captaincy this week. But I wouldn't move Watkins on for Jackson purely because I think if I'm getting Jackson in, I'd want to get him in this week, and I don't think Watkins is really one to be taken out anytime soon. What I think Aston Villa have Burnley next week again, which is another game you would easily expect Watkins to be scoring. Obviously Jackson's fixtures look great, so I do like the idea of getting Jackson in. I just don't think I would move Watkins onto him. I think if you've got someone like a Gibbs White or any of your Forest players, I would try get Watkins. I'd try be able to keep Watkins and get Jackson in as well as him. I think having a front three of Watkins, Jackson and Haaland for the next few weeks could easily be very nice. So I definitely agree with Watkins being captaincy, and I do agree with getting Jackson in. I would just prefer to do it this week, and I'd try to keep Watkins for as much as possible, and if there's anyone else in your team that you're able to take out for Jackson, I would do that instead. Next up is a question from Lee Williams, who says, does Haaland 80% ownership over Salah's 30% ownership sway you more to go for Haaland? For me, no. I think the ownership doesn't really bother me too much when it comes to picking a captain. It's more of just who I think is the best captain, and if the ownership's low, then it's just an added bonus. Obviously, having Haaland in his massive ownership is like a big factor in terms of keeping rank, but I think that's mainly because Haaland is always the best captain. I think this week on Saturday, Salah is just edges it for the captaincy, so I don't really think the ownership matters there. I think when you're looking at it, you do just have to pick the best captain rather than the most owned captain. So for me, I'm going to go Salah, and I think Salah just is the better option to pick. Haaland's obviously going to be the safer option, but I think most people with Salah will captain him this week. I think when you look at teams with Salah and Haaland in it together, there's going to be a higher percentage of people captaining Salah than Haaland. Obviously, Salah is only 30% owned, so as a big scale, Haaland's probably going to be more captained. But I think, as I say, Salah is the better captain, and no, I don't think ownership really bothers me that much. Next we have a question from George Ray, who says, I want a Newcastle striker. I don't mind about their fixtures, but I've got 9.1 left. Who do you think's most nailed on for Premier League starts, Wilson or Isaac? I mean, fair enough if you want to go for a Newcastle striker. I personally think there's better options out there, but like you say, you don't mind their fixtures. So I think when it comes to Champions League, it's going to be slightly different. I think Gameweek 5, I want to say, is when Champions League comes into play. But already we've seen it with rotation, with Isaac coming off after 6 to 8 minutes and Wilson coming on. I think Isaac will be the main striker for Newcastle, but I think it's going to end up switching about quite a lot, and they're going to get subbed early. Other players are going to get subbed early so that they too can play up front. It's really a flip of a coin. For me, I'd be picking Isaac of the two. I don't think I would pick a Newcastle striker. Yet anyway, I would give that a couple more weeks before deciding. But yeah, for me, I would be picking Isaac. I think he will be the more nailed of the two. Our next question comes in from GG Magpie, who asks, Bowen, Watkins or Jackson? I think Bowen's going to be good for the Luton captaincy. I wouldn't be bringing him in this week. I think when Game Week 4 comes around for that captain day, I would definitely be looking at bringing Bowen in. Watkins or Jackson? I'd be picking Watkins purely because of the captaincy. I don't think there's anything wrong with going with both. But again, I wouldn't be like shoving the transfers down in Game Week 2, just trying to get loads of Chelsea players in. If you're picking one, I'd be picking Watkins there, but I'd definitely look at bringing Bowen in Game Week 4. I think, again, Jackson looks like a great option, but for captaincy wise, I would be picking Watkins for Sunday. Next up is a question from Bevan Bulthard, who says, what do you plan to do with your Forest assets after Friday? Move or keep for the Forest-Burnley single game day? For me, I plan on getting rid of them for a Chelsea player. I think it's going to be Gibbs White to Chilwell for me. I think everyone with Gibbs White, I think, should be looking to get him out on Friday. I think if you've got someone like a Turner, it's more of a decision to make because he's the starting goalkeeper, and you can just kind of have him there at 6.1 and just forget about him until the next single game days come out. I think Forest-Burnley is the Game Week 6 single game day. But yeah, I think Gibbs White straight out in Game Week 2, and then you don't have to worry about it, and then you can look back at it again in Game Week 6 and pick which other Forest player you want. Yeah, I don't really think anyone's going to have a 1A. I think if you've got a 1A, I'd maybe even look at keeping him, to be honest. I think he's got a good track record against difficult opponents, and that's kind of what Forest have between Game Week 2 and 6. But yeah, again, that's a tough decision to make. I wouldn't be against taking him out, but I also wouldn't be against keeping him. For me, I think Gibbs White is definitely a get rid in Game Week 2, and then you can look again forward to that in a couple of weeks. I think Gibbs White's price point is just one of those ideal price points to move on to a Chelsea player, and you can get some extra games and just better fixtures with better players by going for Chelsea. So for me, the plan is to go for Gibbs White to Chilwell. Next, a question from Darren S, who asks, Chilwell or Jackson? I like Chilwell better, but I think he's an injury waiting to happen. Now, obviously, Chilwell is very injury prone, but I think when you're looking at, say, captaincies and you don't have Watkins, you're going to be captaining him on Sunday and you're going to be captaining him next Friday. So I think it would be a bit silly to think, oh, he's going to get injured on Sunday, I'm not going to go for him, or he's going to get injured on Friday, I'm not going to go for him. I think even if you get the captaincy on Sunday and Friday and then he gets injured, it's still a worth it transfer because you're getting the two captaincies. I think the only way it doesn't work out is if he literally gets injured this week. I think an injury will happen just because of his track record. I don't think you can bank on it happening though and then not making the transfer just because of the injury record. I think he is still the best option. Again, it's one of those ones that I've probably already answered already, but I still think I would go for Chilwell in that situation. So 2 to go then. The penultimate question comes from Steve, who says, is it worth bringing a Forest player to captain on Friday if you then have to transfer them straight out? I would say definitely not. For 2 transfers, you're really needing like 20 or 20 plus points from the Forest player, and that's got like a 1-0 game written all over it. I think if you wanted a Forest captain, you should have started with them before the start of the season. But yeah, I think if you don't have a Forest player, just skip it. I don't think there's anything wrong with skipping it this week. Most of us Gibbs White could easily end up having a 2-pointer, and we've just wasted a transfer. But yeah, definitely don't use 2 transfers up just to get a Forest player in. I think that is just a bit of a waste. Even like an Awoniyi, for 2 transfers, you're needing like 2 goals from him minimum. And I think it's just a bit of a risk for a Forest player anyways. But yeah, for me, I would leave that game if you don't have one already and just look on to bringing, say, Chelsea players in, Watkins in. But yeah, definitely be saving those transfers if you don't have a Forest player already. And our final question then comes from FPL Bowen, who says, what do you think of Morgan, Gibbs White and Salah to 2 Chelsea players on Saturday night? Probably Chilwell and Thiago Silva or Jackson. Have them for the next 3 games, then come back round for Salah in a few weeks, missing just Newcastle away. Now this is the question that I wanted to get the spreadsheet up for, so I'm just going to grab that up now. Alright, so looking at the transfer planner then, we're looking at Gibbs White and Salah coming out after the Saturday night for 2 Chelsea players here, and then bringing Salah back in, only missing Newcastle, so that would be this here. I think definitely I'd be getting Gibbs White out for a Chelsea player. It's an absolute guarantee. I think that's a great transfer to make. Getting Salah out after here, missing just the Newcastle game, you're getting a 3 for 1. But obviously that's not going to include captaincies because you're already going to take Gibbs White out for a Chelsea player. So let's say you do Gibbs White to Chilwell, and then you've got Salah to either Thiago Silva or Jackson. Now I wanted to look at the captaincy days. I don't think you captain Salah against Newcastle, so that's this Sunday, or you would captain Haaland against Sheffield. So you're not missing out on any captaincies with Salah. So it's really just a straight 3 for 1. I actually don't mind that move, to be honest. You're getting Luton at home and you're getting Nottingham Forest at home, and then you can bring Salah back in, and I'm pretty sure that's the captaincy day against Aston Villa. Sunday, yes. So you would bring him back in to captain against Aston Villa. That's actually not a bad move. I think that could definitely work. Whether it's Jackson or Thiago Silva, I would probably say Jackson's more nailed. I don't think you can guarantee that Thiago Silva will play all 3 of those games. I actually quite like that, to be honest. As long as it's a good aggressive move. Obviously, you're going to be using 2 transfers to do it. So you're really looking for, again, about 20 points from Jackson over those 3 games, which is decent. 1 haul, and that's you sorted. I think 2 goals against Luton or Nottingham Forest, and you're good. Yeah, I actually don't mind that. I think if you want to play the aggressive game and kind of use as many transfers as possible off the start to get yourself ahead, it's actually a very, very nice move at 3. A 3 for 1, again, is kind of the cut-off point at where you want to be making transfers. Newcastle away, you need to rely on Salah blanking. which it could happen. Newcastle's obviously a tough game, especially when they're at home. But yeah, actually, I don't mind that move. I think if you want to make that move, I would totally not be against it. Again, you're looking for a 20-point swing from Jackson over Salah's one game. And I think that could easily happen. Again, it could be a risky one. Salah could score a goal against Newcastle, and then you end up missing out on a few points. Obviously, you need Jackson to score 20 points more than Salah does. But Luton at home and Nottingham Forest at home is the best opportunity to do so. And that wraps it up for all the questions then. This was obviously the first week of the weekly Q&A. Again, follow me on Twitter. It should be up there in the top right left. And so make sure you follow me over there. And on Wednesday nights or Wednesday during the day, I'll be asking you to send in any questions you've got, and then I'll answer them on the Thursday weekly video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.